It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. We are overhauling an Inspector General process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells. At the War Department, promotions across the Joint Force will be based on one thing: merit. Every day, we have to be prepared for war, not for defense. We're training warriors, not defenders. We fight wars to win, not to defend. Defense is something you do all the time. It's inherently reactionary and can lead to overuse, overreach, and mission creep. War is something you do sparingly, on our own terms, and with clear aims. We fight to win. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. President Trump has your back, and so do I. And you'll hear from him shortly. Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Hi, perhaps you recognize me. It's your favorite president.
We will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
Anybody in this country doesn't minimise their tax. They want their headroom.
Socialists don't like ordinary people choosing, or they might not choose socialism.
The answer is might, because I want to do you slowly. I was saved by God to make America great again.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. Thank you to everyone who is watching this today live on Facebook, Rumble and YouTube. If you are watching this live, you can contribute to the chat and let us know what you have to think. The best episodes are the ones that are interactive, and if you really want to be interactive, you can hit that link to StreamYard and call in. It's like Talkback Radio, except we call it Talkback Streaming. So click that link and don't be shy. We want to hear from you and ask a question or even just make a comment, whatever you want to do, and just come on and have a chat if you would like. So that option is there for you. So more interactive, the better. And thank you everyone for watching. Let's kick it off like we always do, and that's by letting you know, hey, you can follow us and support us, and that's by heading to commandingthenarrative.com. And once you hit the website, you'll find all our information there. We had a really great podcast last week where we asked the question, is Australia on a highway to hell? And we had Richard Storch and Councillor Adam Zara return for that one. And, of course, the one at the end there, you'll see the Let's Rethink Renewables Forum. Chris Bowen is paying very special attention to that and stealing clips from that episode. So check that one out and share it around. Obviously, there's some important information that he's trying to discredit or suppress. So check it out, share it around, and please view all the information and the great speakers that we had at that event. Also head to the Let's Rethink Renewables website and sign up to be a member, letsrethinkrenewables.org. And while you're on the Commanding the Narrative website, you can hit the sign up button in the top right-hand corner to get our newsletter. You can also check out all the latest articles and also this survey. Please fill that in. We've got over 3,000 responses for this survey, the Shaping the Future of Australia National Survey. And also, if you want to know what's coming up on the podcast this week, also on the website, and also any upcoming events like this one here, we're calling this Revival because this is going to be in Adelaide, and Adelaide used to be a big manufacturing hub. They used to produce cars and all sorts of different things, and that's all gone by the wayside. But we want to see if we can bring that back, and that starts with better government. And that's what Australians for Better Government is all about. So it's defining a new direction for Australia. It's going to be Sunday, October 26th, starting at 2 p.m. at the Sporting Car Club of South Australia. And we've got some really great speakers, the Honourable Sarah Game, who's in the upper house of the South Australian Parliament, Dr. Christopher Reynolds, who hopefully you all know and love from watching him on the podcast. He's going to be speaking. We also have Michael Arbon, which is just announced this week. He's going to be joining us. He is a political advisor for Senator Ralph Babet and also a political commentator in his own right. And also Councillor Henry Davis, who I'm going to be speaking to today, and hopefully learning more about him, and he'll be speaking at our event as well. So head to commandingthenarrative.com, get your tickets. It's coming up in just over 3 weeks. So please, we want to see you there. It's going to be a very, very important discussion on our political future. So just finally, I'll also let you know about, again, joining Australians for Better Government, and that's by heading to the website australiansforbetter.com, and just please sign up to be a member. The more members that we have, the stronger our movement will be. So speaking of Councillor Henry Davis, he's a lawyer, and he also served in the Australian Air Force, the Royal Australian Air Force. So it's going to be a very interesting chat to hear his perspective. He's also a former Liberal Party member. He left the Liberals, so he joins an elite group there, and we want to hear from him and his thoughts about that. So Henry Davis, welcome to Commanding the Narrative.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I am interested to getting to know you because we don't hear a lot about South Australia here in New South Wales and Sydney.
Oh, that's great.
It's
You're missing out.
Yeah,
there's so much going on here. It's a training ground for some crazy policies that are going to head your way very shortly.
I've heard that. I did hear someone actually told me that yesterday. They said companies like Telstra, when they want to roll something out, they roll it out in Adelaide because no one hears about it. And if they stuff up, it's not such a big deal.
True.
So,
not wrong.
Anyway, mate, tell us a little bit about you. But, obviously you're a councillor at the moment, and you've just started this Fair Go for Australia party with Sarah Game, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But what's your background? I mean, how did you grow up, and, speak about your military service and everything?
Sure. So my father was a shearer, and my mother was a rouseabout. So he grew up in a place called Goulburn in New South Wales, a very small town, and he started off working for the abattoirs. He was one of the only Anglicans in a Catholic school, so he was definitely a bit of an outsider in that system, in that it was a two-school town situation. So he went off, worked at the abattoirs for a bit, and then he became a shearer and a shearer's cook. He came out to Australia when he was 2 years old, so I'm a second-generation immigrant. Oh, wow, I just realized that. I'm a second-generation immigrant. Who knew? And then he went into the shearing sheds. So after that, he became a shearer. He met Mum there on the ski fields, and then they settled in Canberra, of all places. So Mum was 43 at the time she had me. So they, wanted to settle down. So I grew up in Canberra. At the age of 18, I found myself surrounded by a few cop cars, and I was on the streets. I kind of bounced around a few women's shelters for a while. And then I joined the military, and I was trained to hunt submarines. So I served on board the APC-3 Orions when we hunted submarines, and we did offshore patrol above the Northern Territory. And from there, the GFC hit. So there was about 120 people in the squadrons, and there was another 40 people all coming through, and the squadron stopped recruiting. So the military really slowed down at the time. And so turns out I also get airsick, and I'm kind of afraid of heights, and I'm not that great at doing what I'm told, to be honest with you. So I became a lawyer instead. Now, the reason why I chose law was because my dad was a working class man and hated lawyers. So this is really a big FU to my dad. He was very disappointed in me, but I became a lawyer in the end, and I specialized in taxation law because tax is the way that economics gets implemented. So tax is the way that you move people. So if you want people to buy more cigarettes, then you make cigarettes cheaper. If you want people to buy less cigarettes, then you tax it. But also it's the way for government to raise revenue. So this is a very important part of the way society works and something that's really boring. So if I'm going to be a successful lawyer, it's not going to be necessarily on my amazing technical skill. It's going to be on the fact that no one else is practicing the area of law that I'm practicing in, which is very helpful. And everyone pays taxes. So I specialized in that. And it turns out I have a real passion for really minute details and how they then have a really broad impact into society. So that's a little bit of a background of me. And now I ran for politics largely because some stupid bin policy in Burnside Council, they wouldn't pick up my hard rubbish. So I said, no, I'm going to go into politics and fix this hard rubbish policy. And then now I'm running a $1.6 billion company in Sydney called Climb Investment Management. I run about 7 charities. I'm building a $400 million skyscraper in Adelaide, and I've been running that project as the founder for the last 3 years. I'm the chairman of McLaren Vale Hospital and like a whole bunch of other hats, to be honest with you, that I kind of forget sometimes. But I counted them. There's 25 different positions that I serve in.
Wow, mate. How do you fit it all in?
It's not that hard. I don't find it that hard because I have my greatest skill is having excellent teams around me. Like for the skyscraper, I don't know how to build a skyscraper, but I found some people who did. And then my role becomes facilitating them and making sure that they are safe and that they can do what they need to do. And it also comes then down to listening to them. So my job was to set up the vision, get people along with me, and then create a team that really runs itself. So I actually do have a lot of time because the teams and the people around me are so competent. I can rely on their decision making, and decisions get made really, really quickly. So I don't really surround myself in teams where people are being destructive. So when it's very, very clear that we have a shared goal and we have good, competent people, well, the decisions just flow and it's very, very easy.
I'm interested, just a little bit off topic. I know you're not running for federal politics, but you mentioned your time in the military. What's your opinion of the Australian military at the moment? Do you think we're up to scratch when it comes to our capabilities?
Look, I grew up in Canberra and my father really wanted me to become a fighter pilot. So that was the plan, fighter pilot. So I would go off to Duntroon and ADFA, and I was very lucky in Canberra because ADFA, the military academy in Duntroon, were right there. And it was a very, very strict environment, and they instilled, a lot into the cadets. I went there recently, and hearing from some of the old fellas who were doing a tour of Duntroon, the way in which our officers are prepared, I suppose the brutality of their training is a lot different now. It's a lot more hugs and cuddles. Like they would call sergeant, they had sergeants there called Sergeant Cuddles. And like you could walk up to your sergeant, your drill sergeant, and then like they would give you a cuddle and pat you on the back and say they're there. I mean, my sergeants would not have cuddled me. They would more likely hit me with a bayonet like that.
Yeah.
It's different. So I don't know because I'm not in it, but to me that was quite shocking. That discipline has changed.
Yeah, it's just by chance that I played Pete Hegseth in the cold open there, speaking in America, and he's now calling it the War Department, and he wants to really get back to fighting wars and being a strong military. I mean, how did that make you feel when you were watching that? I know I didn't plan to play that just for you, but do you think that we need that sort of thing here in this country?
I don't know. I'm not an expert. I don't know really. I'm just talking about one experience I had on the difference from when I was a child about 20 years ago to what I saw now, and the experience that I went through in 2008, 2009. It seems that the military is a much friendlier place. Now, don't get me wrong. Like they were throwing people out of windows at ADFA. Like they were getting cadets and they were playing noughts and crosses in the windows with the first years. So there's that extreme of it. Like there was a lot of bastardization that happened and really terrible bastardization and bullying to now what I see, which is they're trying to create that kind of culture. Now, the military, the way that they fight wars is different now. It's not going to be frontline charging with bayonets necessarily. The army will still have some place to do that, but it's a lot more technology. It's going to be a lot more drones. It's going to be a lot more back office. So I trust the generals to an extent, but I am worried about that we might be cultivating a weak military. But the reality is I don't know. But they just had a small insight when I went to Duntroon that the older guard were like, this is a different world.
Yeah, right. Look, I guess everything has to move along and advance in a different way, and there's growing pains that come along with that. But from your time in the military, I mean, I'm sure you learnt a lot of lessons. Have you been able to adapt anything that you learnt in the military to your life now and maybe your political life?
Absolutely. Like, they spent millions on me. Like, I have been trained like no tomorrow. So you know, one of the most useful things, I'll just give you a quick example, right? So there's 3 different styles of leadership. There's autocratic, diplomatic, and passive. Passive leadership, where you don't do anything, we don't give commands and just sit back and do nothing, is the ideal style of leadership. That's the goal. That's where you want to get to. So, you know, they gave me a lot of, which seems quite contradictory, right? So the idea is that you shift your leadership style, and this is something good for corporate world as well, depending on the circumstances and the quality of your or understanding of your troops underneath you. So autocratic is used for low confidence, low skill troops, but even more autocratic for high confidence, low skill people. High confidence, low skill get people killed. Okay, they're the worst type of troop and worst type of employee. Diplomatic is for high competence, low confidence, and then you use passive when you have high confidence and high competence. So if they're competent and they're confident in it, well, then you should be passive. Let people do their job. So as the party progresses, I'll also shift my leadership, and I think that's important that we see that in politics as well.
No, that's really interesting. I mean, I don't have any view on national service. You know, getting younger people in the military and I guess exposing them to that information and that training. What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on national service?
It's incredible. Like so like, I think parents, and I saw this with my friend, my best friend growing up at school, you know, my goal as a child was to be a fighter pilot. I knew what I had to be. I knew what the goal was. So what did that mean for me as a small child? Well, I needed to be in leadership positions, which I was from the age of 6. You know, I was in very, very high powered leadership positions as an infant, because my dad thought, you fighter pilot, well, you need leadership. So I was telling commandants of ADFA what to do when I was a 6-year-old. And then I needed physics, I needed chemistry, I needed to be physically fit, I needed to have short hair, I needed to dress well, I needed to be able to project, I needed to be confident, I had to be able to public speak. So all of these things that came from having a life objective was extremely important. Whereas my friend, he didn't have that life objective at all. And so he was just kind of a bit lost. So I think the discipline that I got from the military, but also having the goal of being in the military, led me to have to develop a set of skills. But my friend went, oh, well, why am I going to bother with leadership training? Why am I going to bother learning how to, you know, sleep outside and go and do bivouacs and all this kind of stuff? And why would I join cadets? Because I might be a welder, or I might be a carpenter, or I might be a painter. So he just kind of got stuck and didn't move anywhere. So I think it's really important that parents give their kids a direction. Kids don't know what they want to be, but I think it's actually quite destructive to tell a kid, hey, you know, you make up your own mind, because kid don't know. I ended up being a tax lawyer from fighter pilot, very different thing. But all of the skills that I learned in my training to hunt nuclear submarines is like really applicable in everything I do. And so I think that's the thing, is we need to keep younger kids moving towards a direction, having a goal, winning goals. And the problem with, I think, parenting now is that they're not instilling a direction and clear goal for their kids to achieve.
I'd love to talk to you more about the military, but we need to move on to your political career now and what you're trying to do, you know, not only in council, but now also with the Fair Go for Australia Party. What are your motivations politically? What drives you to, I guess, be involved?
There are so many problems. There are so many problems. It kind of does come from the military, in that if you see something, it's your problem. So if you see a bit of rubbish on the ground, it's your problem. If you see some guy in a balaclava with a whole bunch of like robbery tools running across the airfield, that's your problem as well. So you need to do something about it. So I picked up this very, very cumbersome philosophy that if I see a problem, I have to go and fix it. And that's probably why I'm on 25 boards, because there's lots of problems. Now, in order to fix those problems, I need power, because if I don't have power, I can't fix them. So one of the initial problems that I had, I was living in Burnside, which is a small council, and there was just, they had this hard rubbish collection once a year. And I changed that policy to be an at-call system, and that reduced crime. It reduced the cost. It meant that it was a better service for that council, and it saved the council about $300,000-$400,000 a year. And then there was a whole bunch of other problems. So now becoming a tax lawyer, financial issues are a big focus of mine on the council. And I suppose in politics, the reason why I'm running for the upper house here in South Australia is there are a lot of issues. I'm not happy with the way that the country is going. I think we're going backwards, and I can sit here and whinge about it. You know, I could make TikToks, or, you know, or I can get in the arena and I can try and make a difference. And so that's what I'm doing, because I don't feel like I can just sit here and criticize. I actually have to go and do the thing.
Yeah. Speaking of big problems that need fixing, you were in the Liberal Party, and now you're out of the Liberal Party. I was in the Liberal Party and I'm out of the Liberal Party. A lot of people feel disaffected with the Liberal Party, and they feel like it's not going in the direction that it's meant to be, and it's been like that for probably 10 or 15 years, or potentially longer. Can you give us that story? Why did you decide to leave? Because you were in there for about 20 years, is that right?
20 years, yeah. I joined when I was 16. My dad was a shearer, like I said. You'd think that would be on the trade union side, but actually he would go in and break the blockades. Like, they would set up the picket lines and they would go on strike. My dad was like, well, now I get paid twice like as much, so I'm just going to go in and shear the sheep because I'm just going to get my job done. And he would tell me stories about how people were getting killed because they were using wide combs from New Zealand, because the unions wanted to restrict how many sheep someone could shear in a day. So he would get the wide combs from New Zealand, put them on his clippers, shear a whole bunch of sheep, and then switch back over to the normal ones. But he told me that he would have been in a huge amount of trouble if that would happen. They tried to implement this in New Zealand, and the Maoris were like, we'll just kill you. And they're like, okay, well, we won't do that then. So in New Zealand, it didn't work. But in Australia, the union is very controlling. So he always encouraged me to have liberal values. He was a man based in self-discipline. And also he had a focus on that. If you have more decisions in life, if you have more opportunities, then you'll make the best decision available to you. The more opportunities you have, the more likely you'll make the best decision. So I got into the Liberal Party, which kind of shares that foundation. The Liberal Party, I said I don't walk past the problem, and I tried to come up with a system to fix the Liberal Party. I actually had a logo, and what I was going to do is form my own formal faction. I had a website set up. I had a good group of people, and I was going to try and fix the Liberal Party, because the Liberal Party constitution, or the Liberal Party at the moment, is broken, and it cannot be repaired, because the way that the constitution of the Liberal Party was established was it necessitated lots and lots of members. So it needs to have lots of members. But what's happened is that MPs have realized that more members, just like Stalin, he said more people, more problems. A lot of the members of parliament realized that the more members they had, the more likely there would be a challenge. So rather than being better than the next person, they realized that if I just make it so hostile, and if I just control my SECs and I run down the membership, then I'll be the member and I won't be challenged. So rather than trying to build membership where someone might say, hey, you're actually incompetent and should be doing this job, or like a young up and comer like me, they tried to control me. And I just spoke to another person this morning who was in the Liberal Party, and they did that exactly that. They just bullied him relentlessly, and they attacked him, and the local MP just literally defamed him to the entire Liberal Party and community because he was a real threat. So I'm hoping to get him as a candidate, actually. So the Liberal Party is now structurally weak because it has no members.
From what we hear about South Australia and the South Australian Liberal Party, we hear that Alex Antic is taking it back and is leading it on the right path and expanding membership and building branches and etc.
Yeah.
I mean, is that true? I mean, what are your thoughts on Alex Antic and what he's done down in South Australia?
Yeah. I had great hopes for Alex Antic. I really did. And I
Well,
thought...
I think a lot of us do. I mean, right around the country, we look to him as potentially a future prime minister.
I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I think that Alex Antic has spent 6 years asking bureaucrats what the difference between a man and a woman is. And it's an important question. But he's used that question to build up a base that are going to follow him wherever he wants. And look, on council, I've raised angry mobs before, but there comes a point where an angry mob can turn on you unless you do exactly what they say. And the Romans did this. They were always very afraid of the mob. So Alex Antic in South Australia has recruited a lot of members who aren't really liberals in many ways, who won't volunteer at the election booths. And what he's done is he's structurally weakened the Liberal Party, I think, beyond repair. So I call them the Liberal Party mums. They're like the retired women usually, and they run the raffles. They run the volunteer lists. They get out there and run the door knocking things. If there's a letter drop to do, they call everyone. They're these really, really hardworking Liberal mums who get all the work actually done. Now, a lot of these mums were holding these delegate positions in the state council, and Alex needed the votes in state council to get number one on the ticket. So he systematically went through a lot of the electorates and just removed all these mums and took them off the delegate positions and replaced them with people who might have 4 or 5 children in the middle of their careers, and they're focused on other things. They're not focused on benefiting the Liberal Party right now. They might believe in what Alex is saying, but they don't have the time to contribute 40 hours a week. They just don't. So now that all these mums have gone, well, fine, you run it then. You want to be the membership officer? Well, you call everyone. Okay, you want to be the treasurer? Well, you run the raffle. And they're not doing that. So the way that I see it is that structurally the party is now extremely weak. And that's what Alex has done, because these new people that have come in have not taken the reins. And it's very much about getting Alex re-elected rather than building a strong team. And I'm very critical of the way that he used those people to put in a candidate in Mayo, which I ran for in the contested election. I ran against a guy called Zane Basic, and he doesn't live in the electorate. He didn't have any money. Nobody knew who he was. He had no support, and the election just went terribly. And he was a staffer for Nicole Flint, and that's who we put in. That's who we backed. Now, I tried to call Alex, tried to meet with him, and he refused. So he doesn't come to events. He doesn't participate, and he's not a leader. So whilst he might look good on Sky News and be saying the things that people agree with, at his core, he's not a strong leader, and he's not a leader of the Liberal Party. And I don't think he aspires to that role.
No, I mean, that last comment I was just about to say, he said he doesn't aspire to it. I mean, that's what I feel like. There's no real ambition there to go any further. He seems happy. I met him at CPAC. I spoke to him. And I've spoken to him before. I just get that vibe from him where he's just coasting along. He's saying, he seems to be saying the right things. A lot of people have hope in him. They want him to step up and take on that leadership role, because we're desperate for leaders, particularly on the right side of politics. But yeah, there's just that lack of ambition there. It doesn't seem to exist.
I don't think he really wants it. He doesn't want to create a strong team like that. It's very different from my style, where I absolutely want to be the dumbest person in the room, and I want to be taking advice from the dumbest person in. I want to be the person getting all the advice. And that's what I build. That's why I have time to do 25 different hats and do all these things, is because the quality of the team members around me are far exceed my intelligence and far exceed my capability. They're just better at me at everything. And so I understand that, and that's why they're there. And then that's why we win. That's why we succeed. So whereas there seems to be a race to the bottom of putting in people into positions that will do what they're told, rather than people who will exceed you or do better than you, I my position on leadership, I said I was like telling very, very important people what to do from a young age when I was 6. So I've got a bit of a strange kind of upbringing because I used to be a coxswain in rowing crews. So I was a 6-year-old kid with 2 pieces of string and a microphone, and I would tell the crew what to do. But the crew, the guy in the front seat, he ran all the satellites for Australia. He was an astrophysicist, and he was like one of the chief scientists. The guy behind him was the lead cardiologist in Australia. If you had some strange heart condition, he would cut you open and fix you. The guy behind him was the commandant of ADFA. He was in charge of ADFA. So I'm 6 years old telling these people off. Now, I had a leadership role. So I had the microphone, I had the string, but I would also take advice from the stroke. So the guy who was the astrophysicist would constantly tell me what I needed to be saying and how what I should be trying to achieve. And in many ways, I was kind of reproducing what he was saying. So it was a strange dynamic in that I was in charge of the boat. I was in charge of these very, very strong, successful men, but I was a 6-year-old kid taking orders in a way, but also then giving them. So I think a lot of politicians really, really struggle in being in a position and surrounded by people who are more competent than them and still thinking that they can be the leader. And imposter syndrome is a real thing. So I think the strategy now with a lot of politicians is just to remove competent people. And now a lot of people just go to the federal parliament or federal Liberal Party and go, how do these idiots get here? They're like turtles on a post. There shouldn't be a turtle on a post. They certainly didn't get there themselves. They don't know how they got up there. They definitely don't know how they're going to get down. And that's what we're looking at the Liberal Party federally. That's the problem. It's a structural issue.
It's such a frustrating issue because it's not just isolated to the Liberal Party either. It seems to be right throughout politics where you get these people, particularly the older generations, I find, where they're incapable of building anything themselves. They might come up and talk a big game, but they smooch off people that actually work hard and build something, and then try and push those people aside and get them out of the way and take all the glory for themselves.
That's right.
And I think that's a big problem why this country is heading in the direction that it's heading, is because we're taking all those capable people that work hard, they build something on their own, and they just get cast aside. They get chewed up and spat out, and they go, well, why do I bother? I mean, I could just sit on the beach with my family and watch the world burn. Like, why do I?
The people who we need in Parliament don't need to be there. Right. So I'm a tax lawyer. I own my own firm. I land tax that the Liberal Party input in was great for my practice. I don't need to be in Parliament. I would be much more successful in a way. Like I could earn so much more money. So the way that if you ranked Australians' competency, so you have this number 1 is a complete idiot. Number 100 is the smartest person ever. There comes all these people, the smartest people in Australia aren't running for politics because why would they? There's no benefit and they have to deal with all this crap. So they don't need $200,000 a year. They're on $1 million a year. So there would be a massive pay cut. So you have to kind of go down the spectrum to silly people until you get to people 70%. That's the type of person who will go into politics. And that's the person who will spend their whole life trying to get the salary of a backbencher. But they're like turtles on fence posts. They actually get there because they're incompetent and they won't challenge the leader. Because if you're a leader who wants to have control, you don't want someone who's going to challenge you, someone who's going to be more competent than you, and someone who's going to outshine you, because then you won't be the leader anymore. They will. So the best strategy is to get rid of that person from the beginning.
Yeah, and there's so many people sitting in the parliament. They've been there 10 years, 20 years, and you've never heard of them. They've never done anything. They've never achieved anything. I mean, that's the state that we're in. But when you left the Liberal Party, was it a hard decision for you? Is it something that you, I guess, thought about deeply, or was it just, you were just desperate to get out of there? Which I guess was my feeling when I was so happy to get out of there.
Yeah, so like I said, I was planning on creating a faction. I had rules. I had an entire system. I had a website. My intention was to create a faction that within the Liberal Party that would always vote for the best person. That was we would decide not based on whether you were a moderate or a conservative or anything like that. The idea was who is the best person to win this seat for the party. The idea was that we would do polling and that I would go and stack out each of the branches and essentially do what Alex has done by stacking it out. I was well on my way to doing that. I have money in the bank to do that. but there came this kind of moment when a very influential like liberal mum and the others that I know, they've lost their hope, and they just like, they were just like, I just don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be involved in the Liberal Party. I'm stepping away, and I'm going to go take a break for 3 years because I've dedicated 40 years of my life to this, and I'm just, pretty distraught with the direction. And you know what? I don't want to make a difference. And I went, well, if these people have given up on this brand, on the structure, well, maybe it's the case that it's just broken. And I don't have the staff that Alex Antic does in 6 years. Like, he's been stacking this out for 6 years, and this is his full-time job, basically, with his staff. And he didn't even win the state pre-selection. He didn't even get the way that he wanted in the state council. So am I going to dedicate 6 years to try and fix something which is fundamentally broken? I think that the brand is such a terrible state. To me, it just seemed easier to start again.
Yeah, so you have started again, and you've met Sarah Game, who I hold in a very high regard. I've interviewed her before, and obviously when I spent some time in my nation, we looked up to her as someone that worked incredibly hard. She's one of the most hardest working politicians out there, I think, if you follow her social media. And this is you and her announcing your new party, Fair Go. How did you come across Sarah, and what I guess drew you towards her?
She's the only. So I was in the Liberal Party, right? I knew all the members. I know them all by name. I've got their numbers in my phone. Like, I can call up the leader. He'll pick up my call even today. Like, I know them all. And there was a couple of issues that I really needed help with. Okay, so there was a thing called McLaren Vale Hospital. There was a whole bunch of issues with that hospital. It's a 25 bed regional hospital in McLaren Vale in the wine country here in South Australia. And it was a very important asset for that community. The local member and the board just wanted to shut it down. This hospital was making $500,000 a year. Now, the idea was that there was going to be more beds come online in Flinders Hospital, which was like a major public hospital just on the road. So we wouldn't get these beds in 3 years' time. So they thought, like, let's shut it down rather than shut it down during election year. So this thing was really important. So the locals there said to me, like, Henry, you're a fighter. Can you come and help us? So I'm like, yeah, I can absolutely come and do that. So it ended up with a $700,000 court case, by the way. I had to go to the Supreme Court and fight this, and I won. And I took a huge personal risk of $700,000 was on the line for me. And it was the right thing to do. So I took it. I fought in the Supreme Court. I put my own assets on the line, everything on the line, and we won that court case because what was happening there was wrong. I went to the Shadow Minister for Health. I went to the federal Shadow Minister for Health. I went and talked to everyone in the Liberal Party, and I asked them, hey, this is something really wrong going on here. And remember, the court also found there was something wrong here. And they wouldn't help. They didn't do anything. They didn't ask a question in question time. And I felt like, what's your job when South Australia has got a ramping crisis? People are dying on our ramps here, and they did nothing to help. Whereas when I went to Sarah Game and I said, hey, there's a provision in the Local Government Act where the mayor is trying to abuse Section 75G to basically, like, the mayor has this order that on the basis of someone's health and safety might be at risk, she can actually just give me an order never to attend council again, or she can give me an order never to speak at council, like any order that she wants. She's like, you're not allowed to vote on any motion. There's no report. There's nothing. There's nothing there. I went to the Liberals and said, this is really unfair. This provision should be illegal. They didn't do anything. But Sarah Game stood up and she supported me. And she was the only parliamentarian who could be bothered. So I think that there's a bit of a problem, and I'm concerned that the Liberal Party kind of want the world to burn so that they hope that they can win government. Because if these things go wrong, like if McLaren Vale Hospital closes, then maybe they have a better chance of winning next time. I really hope that's not the case. I just hope they're really lazy. But the reality is that an effective opposition plays a really important part in our democracy. And it seems to me that they're just okay for the world to go downhill. And they're just hoping that they'll be rewarded at the end of it by being elected to government. And that's just not going to happen anymore. Independents will be rewarded, not the Liberal Party.
Mm. So the formation of Fair Go, how did that come about? Did you go to Sarah, or did she come to you, or was it just a mutual thing that just developed? I mean, how did it all play out?
It's kind of funny, like it's kind of like ships in the night, right? Like you kind of see across the horizon. I saw what Sarah was doing. I always thought that she was a fighter. I always thought that she's the only person who's not like basically dead inside in the upper house here. I'm not sure if you watched the upper house Question Time, but it's like there are literally people half asleep asking questions in there. So she's the only person with a bit of fight, and I can see that it was like awake and everyone else is just asleep. And so I always really admired her from that. And it just seemed to be really obvious to me. She left One Nation, and she started her own party. And then I thought, well, and I was thinking about, if we could work closely together. I was trying to get the Liberal Party back in shape, but I always kind of had a thought that Sarah and I would work really well together. So when she went and started her own party, she said, "Hey, Henry, let's catch up for a coffee." And I said, I knew what she was going to ask, and I knew that she was going to ask me to run as number one on the ticket for the new party. And I went in there saying, yes, absolutely, because I think that we're going to be a really good complement. We have different interests, we have different focuses, but we fundamentally believe the same thing, that our country's not going the right way, and we need to focus our outcomes on making people's lives better. And that's like the core tenet of the Fair Go Party, is we're focused on not some ideology, not some left-right battle, but our every single policy needs to improve your life in a real tangible way. And I think that's what's different about our party.
When you guys announced the party, this is some of the articles that came out. This is the advertiser, and it paints you as a polarizing Adelaide City Councillor, and in other articles it says that you're controversial. I mean, how do you feel about the media trying to paint you in that way? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, it's great. Like, it's really good. So if you're the media, keep painting me in that way, because people are really angry, and if there's somebody going against the narrative, they'll listen to them. So I don't if the media painted and had a headline, Councillor Davis slightly disagrees with the remainder of his colleagues, people wouldn't be interested in it. So the sensationalization of the media, they have to compete with TikTok and Instagram and all this kind of stuff. So they have to create these big, outrageous headlines. So yeah, keep doing it. I love it. But for me personally, I look at controversial and I'm like, no, if people it's not controversial. It's controversial in the chamber because they've got the numbers, right? So, but in the community, they back me. I got a call this afternoon of just someone saying, "Hey, you don't know me, but I just really want to thank you for what you're doing on Hutt Street, because the Adelaide City Council basically want to ruin one of our main streets here in Adelaide by putting in a separated bike lane and kicking out all the cars and car parks." So I'm fighting this campaign with the local residents, and one of them just said, "I just really, 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 really appreciate everything you're doing. Please keep going. It's a hard gig. Keep going." And so, am I controversial, or are they controversial? But I think the Lord Mayor has $500,000 of staff, past media advisors. She has all that kind of stuff. So of course I'm the bad guy, and I don't really mind it, because I don't think people are very happy with the good guy, the current government. They're not happy. So if they want to paint me as someone who opposes that, I strongly do.
Yeah, well, see, that's the issue. I mean, who in there is any good? I mean, let's face it. I mean, in state parliaments and the federal parliament as well, the people running the show are just not up to it. They're suboptimal. No. So if anyone's going to go in there and challenge that, I think people welcome that. I think people want that conflict of ideas, and they want someone to come up and push back and make a big fuss. And if there's a little bit of theatrics involved, then so be it. Yeah. And I think that's it's the old school Australian larrikinism. It's like, you're not just going to just go along nicely. Let's cause a bit of a fuss and a bit of a stir, and get people talking about stuff.
And I love having a laugh as well. Like I take the mickey out of myself as well, and I'm not too serious, to be honest. But some of them, I don't set myself up like Captain Cook. He rocked up to Hawaii and they all thought he was a god, and then he cut himself on a nail. So they said, "You're not a god," and they ate him. Like a lot of politicians set themselves up as these gods that can't be questioned, can't be wrong, and all of a sudden when they bleed, they die. Like, you know, they get eaten alive. I think the Labor Party system is better than the Liberal Party system right now at getting good leaders, better leaders. And the Liberal Party used to be, like, the reason why we just dominated federally was because when we had lots of members. See, the thing is, democracy is great because let's just say we want to guess, you know, how many jelly beans are in a jar. If I just guess, probably going to be wrong. But if 1,000 people guess, they're going to be a lot closer. 100,000 people, they're probably going to get exactly right. So the more people are involved in a decision making, the more likely you are going to get the right answer. And that's why I'm good, because I have like a council of my own, an advisory group, and they all tell me different things. But, you know, generally I can get that input and find the right answer quickly. So the Labor Party now have a very much an autocratic style of leadership, and they're just like, this person goes in. So they're picking people with, say, out of that spectrum of 110, 0 to 100 intelligence, you know, they're picking like 75s. Whereas the Liberal Party used to select, you know, 85s and 90s, like you're very, very good people. But now the way that the membership is weakened, they're actually actively trying to pick people who are sycophants, who are not going to challenge the status quo, who are just going to do what their boss told them to do. And they are completely beholden to somebody else. And that's the problem with Alex's vice grip on many of these electorates, is that now people, like, if you challenge Alex, you're gone. You just won't win. So you just have to do what this one person says. It's not a good outcome, you know, when you have so few people. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about Fair Go. What sets you apart from all the other parties out there? Because there's a whole host of minor parties, particularly on the right. I don't think there's as many in South Australia, or at least they're not as dominant as they are in other states. But there are still a smattering of parties, and the state election's coming up very, very soon. It's in March. I'm pretty sure. What sets you guys apart from the rest, and why should people really focus on learning more about you and learning about your policies?
Yeah. The funny thing is, in setting up a new party, you need a logo, you need colors, you need a website. There's a lot of admin that goes into setting it up. So the last 3 weeks have been like me just doing admin and putting up all the infrastructure. The difference between Fair Go and I think any other party at the moment, or the other minor parties, is that we have the chance to become the new opposition in South Australia. We are going to field 45 candidates. We'll field one in every seat. And the focus will be on how do we make your life better, not on some ideology, not on based on, say, a climate change religion without having an actual basis on it. And we're going to fill it with energetic people and then hold them to standards. And we're going to find the best people that we can run, not just your best mate. So if there's someone who emerges who's stronger than me, who's would make a better candidate for number one, then we should put them in. And we should select people who have the most chance of winning, not the people who are based on the people who are just going to do them what Sarah tells them to do. We want to be a group of people where it's okay to disagree, where we can have ferocious debates with each other. And you know what? It's probably going to spill over to the public. That's okay. But we need to have that conversation, and we need to be focused on one thing. Now, can we pull that off? Time will tell. And are we that different from other people who want to solve the problem? Not really. I think Peter Malinowskis wants to solve problems. He wants to, make the world a better place. So does Vincent Tasia. So does Susan Lay. So does Anthony Albanese. A lot of these people, I feel, do get into these positions for the wrong reasons, but at some level they want to improve things. But it's just about how much energy you have and whether you're actually going to be successful. So we're going to give it a really, really good go. And we're going to be focused on some core issues and the little things. I think that we don't just, a lot of people are just saying, what's your view on mass immigration? What's your view on these big issues? Well, they don't matter, to be honest with you, that much, because they're symptoms of all the small things. It's all the small things in our society that caused these big solutions to need to be put in, which people then perceive as a growing kind of big bad, And we got time to talk about, like, say, mass immigration, for example.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, well, I do want to ask you about the upcoming election, because I want to see what you think are the big issues that the election is going to be fought on. So I guess immigration's one of them. I mean, feel free to talk about that or any others that you think are applicable.
Yeah. So this is my real problem with politics, and this is why our system's going backwards, is because it's not big issues. Like, forget the big issues, forget the big policy, forget the big thing. It's not that. In your life, in your house, if you're running your household budget, if you want to make your life better, it's, you know what, I'm putting on a little bit of extra weight. You don't just put on weight overnight. You eat the wrong things over a period of 3-4 years, and then you put on 10 kilos and your health goes backwards. So how do you change that? You don't just stop eating altogether. You eat slightly healthier. You try and make a 1% better decision. If your finances are going backwards, you know what you should do? Get rid of the 5 streaming services you have and just get one. It's little decisions along the way that really make a change over time. And there's a book called Atomic Habits that I subscribe to, and I very much agree with the philosophy. It's not just this big win, big ding kind of policy. So, and a lot of people see mass immigration as a problem. Now, mass immigration is not a problem. It is a solution to a problem. Okay. The reason why the Labor government and the Liberal government both wanted to bring in lots and lots of immigrants is because, in real terms, I think we're in a recession. I think that people's real wages are going backwards. The real buying power. We're feeling that life is harder to live. Now, that's because I think that we're becoming less and less productive as a society. And the reality is that our families, our couples, are only having 1.5 kids per couple. Now, in the economy, our economy is made up of, output is made up of 4 things: land, labor, capital, which is like monetary investment and plant and equipment, and entrepreneurship. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. Labor. If our labor drops down, if we don't have a workforce, then our output reduces. If our output reduces, capital investment will stop coming into the country. If capital investment stops coming to the country, our entrepreneurs will leave and they'll find somewhere else. So, what is the solution to lowering labor productivity? It's bring in more labor. And if you had the choice of bringing in, 2 Swedish people who are going to have 1 child each, or you're going to bring in people who might have lots of kids and who believe in having large families, you're going to choose people who are going to have larger families because they want to solve the problem. Now, why do we have those problems? It's because of consistently bad economic management the whole way through. It's consistently bad policies the whole way through. So, for example, varroa mite is a small little mite. And this is what I want to talk about, is this little 1%ers that have a big impact on your life. It's a small little red mite. And we don't have it here in South Australia. In New South Wales, they definitely have it, and it's gone wildfire. In 2015, the government said that they passed a bee biosecurity officer. They were going to fund a bee biosecurity officer to prevent varroa mite from coming to South Australia. They didn't fund that program. So now they're importing, there was a case where there's 10,000 hives come in for pollination, mainly of almond trees and almond milk. And they only had 2 people to check 10,000 hives. So they didn't check 10,000 hives. They only checked 600. And in the last hives they checked, they found varroa mite. And if that varroa mite have come into South Australia, basically what it means, it will wipe out 95% of our native bee population, which means that our farmers then need to pay for pollination, which makes your food more expensive. Okay, so not complying with a policy from 2015 makes your food more expensive. So that's why people are having less kids, is because things are going up in price because they didn't do this one little thing, and it has an impact. And that's the type of stuff I'm really, really interested in, is the micro things, the small things that have huge knock-on effects over time.
That's, it's super interesting you saying that, and I haven't heard a politician have that perspective before. And I think what you said about immigration being the solution to the problem is very, very interesting, and something that I think that needs to be discussed. But I mean, when you're in election mode, that's hard to sell to particularly apathetic voters. Do you think that's a big problem, that some of these issues are complex and they need to be explained in detail, But a lot of the voters out there, they just don't have time for it. They just want to walk in, pick the person with the biggest smile, and they want to get out and get on with their lives.
Yep. Okay, Stephen, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you played tic-tac-toe?
Tic-tac-toe?
Competitively. Tic-tac-toe.
Oh, I don't think I have.
Right. Like, tic-tac-toe is such a simple game that if you know the strategy, you can always draw. Okay? So people stop playing it because it's a stupid game. It's not competitive. You're not going to have... It's not competitive. It's not hard.
Yeah.
AFL, soccer, a lot of skill, a lot of competition, high skill level. Tic-tac-toe, very low skill. I can teach you how to draw in tic-tac-toe like that. Soccer, footy, much, much difficult. I have behind me Warhammer 40K. Very complex game. Okay, you have to paint them. Yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. Chess is a thousands of year old game, right? And these games and these things hold people's interest because they're hard. Okay, so when politicians go out with jobs and growth, Stephen. Hey, Mary's jobs and growth. Hey, you jobs and growth. Everyone goes, I'm not going to listen to that. But if I say, hey, we need to have a conversation about Varroamide and all the other things, but let me give you an example of things that I want to fix. Well, it's not jobs and growth. It's a real tangible thing. And so I think people are sick of politicians with wide-reaching jobs and growth policies that really don't make any impact, which we know aren't going to change it. And politicians just then repeat the same thing and people get bored. So why are people not engaging in tic-tac? Why is there no competitive tic-tac-toe scene? Because it's boring as hell. Why do we have soccer in a World Cup? Because it's really, really complicated and it's really, really hard. Politics is extremely difficult. So look, I could be wrong. And I know a lot of advisors, will say to me, experienced politicians, you got to keep it basic. You got to keep it simple. The world is not simple. I will not dumb it down for you. It's a complex place and you need to listen and you need to decide who's going to be the most competent person to run it. So we can play a tic-tac-go game and you'll lose interest like that. Or we can talk about something really complex, something really important that you go, you know what, Henry, I trust you. You got it. I'm just going to give you my vote and off you go. So that's my strategy. Rightly or wrongly, we'll see if it works. But I don't think that bringing politics down into like a reducto ad absurdum, stupidly low level and treating people like idiots is the way to go.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's all about narratives, and one of the narratives that are out there is that politics is boring, and you don't need to focus on politics, and you don't need to discuss politics. I mean, I love talking about top politics because I always focus on solutions, and I love talking about solutions and fixing things. And I guess that's why we kicked off Australians for Better Government. And I should plug it right now. This event that we've got coming up in Adelaide. If you like hearing from Henry, then come along and join us. It's Sunday, October 26th, so it's not far away at 2 p.m. at the Sporting Car Club of South Australia. And we are going to be having these conversations about how we can make better government, how we can fix our government, how we can reform our government, and maybe flesh out some of the solutions that Henry's talking about, or maybe just identify the problems and discuss those better. As we been talking about Sarah Game today. She's going to be there as well, and she's going to be speaking. Also, Michael Arbon, who is a very thought-provoking guy, and Dr. Christopher Reynolds. If you've seen him speak at our previous events, I think you'll love hearing from the good doctor. So please come along. You can head to the Australians for Better Government website or commandingthenarrative.com and get your tickets. Mate, are you looking forward to this event? It's an opportunity for you to get in front of the people of Adelaide and give us your thoughts.
I hate it. No, of course I am. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. Look, that's the thing is right. You talking to people is the hard part, and trying to get people who are interested in listening. I think that's it's great that we need to have these forums more, and these little things with like I can watch funny cat videos for hours.
That's right.
You can do that any day of your life, or you can read my 6-page letter that I sent to all the residents in the city of Adelaide about why the city council budget's just munted. What would you prefer to be doing? Look, a lot of people are going to choose funny cats. I get it. They're pretty funny. But I'm hoping that at least some people will engage with it, understand those things. And it's the mums of the world who engage the most. And it's their job. And I spoke to somebody this morning, that person who gave me that congratulations on Hutt Street. And I said, we need to go and tell your kids, like you need to go and tell other people, because they're the people who really have the time to be engaged. And so it really is up to the mums of Australia to talk politics with their kids and say that, hey, if you want to change, this is the outcome.
Now, mate, I'm going to put you on the spot because I love doing this. It's the final segment of the podcast. It's called Build Your Own Fantasy Government. Now, Henry, you're going to be in charge of the next Parliament of Australia, and you can choose 5 or 6 people to lead that Parliament, to lead the government. They can be living or dead. They don't have to be politicians. They can be anyone that you choose, but 5 or 6 people. Who do you pick?
Oh, you know what? Can I kind of just reject it a little bit, right? The George Washington, right? And the founding fathers of America, or our first prime minister. These people get credit for everyone else's hard work, and that's really important, right? So for the building that I'm building on North Terrace, it's a huge building, 183. It's our first skyscraper. I get a lot of the credit because I'm in the front of it, like I'm the face of it. But there's all these people behind you that make such an effective team. And so what I would want is people, like you could pick your Teddy Roosevelts or your Winston Churchills, all these really strong leaders who had like these kind of big things. But actually what the most important thing is for a success, and I kind of think about that. I was like, who would you pick? You'd pick like all these, famous people that have done great things in the past. I would pick Charlie Kirk. Like, but they'd probably all just kill each other. So, the thing is that the people you'd actually want is you'd want a strong leader and some really, really, really good followers and people, because we always put all this emphasis and all this pressure on Susan, right? Like Susan Lee is doing a terrible job, but is it her or is it she's just representative of the team? The team that's there. Sure, there's a leadership aspect to it, but the reality is that you as a leader are just reflective of the team that's around you. I'm doing really, really well, not because I am any genius, but because I have such an amazing team behind me. And I would be nothing.
But isn't leadership bringing good people together, inspiring them, building a team, leading them forward? Isn't that I don't think leaders just get in that position and then they get lucky to have a good team around them. There's an aspect of leadership that brings those people along or brings the right people together. I suppose what you're doing with your party now, you're trying to find good people and bringing them together to form a good team. I think that's leadership. Yeah.
And so who would I pick? I would pick George Washington's team and all the names that you've never heard of.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't him. He didn't I'm not doing the thing. Like it's the team that does the thing. That you've got to give one person credit for it, right? So Susan Lee gets all the negative credit for a really broken, terrible team. It wouldn't matter who the leader is. It wouldn't matter because what's happening in the Liberal Party, they're all killing each other and they're all fighting. As a leader, she can't lead because the party is not united. Yeah, sure, it's her job to unite. But the thing is, I was thinking, like, should I get Teddy Roosevelt, Winston Churchill? Should I get, some other great leaders? Me, obviously, I would probably love to be on the team. They're really nice. Alexander Down and Christopher Pyne. Like, Alexander Down and Christopher Pyne, they're like trying to kill each other all the time. But at the end of the day, they came together and they worked as a team and they made sure the Liberal Party won at every election. So it would be like, I don't think that having 5 strong people who are these big, great leaders that you could name, they're not there because of their own personality. They're there because they were smart enough to create a great team. So who would I have? I would have George Washington's team. Not George Washington, because then I couldn't lead it. I'm selfish in a way. I'd like to be the leader. I want to be involved in that. And so if I was in that team, then I would steal his team.
Mate, I like the way that you think. It's very thought-provoking and it's a little bit out of left field. You don't hear too many people in politics talk the way that you do. Do you think it's maybe an age thing? I don't know how old you are, but do you think the newer generations of people are going to be coming into this thinking the way that you do, or do you think it's just something uniquely?
I think I have
Henry Davis.
Yeah, I think I have a weird way of looking at the world.
Yeah.
I think I have a really weird way of looking at the world. And I've been thinking about this a lot, is because like in a rowing crew, I'm 6 years old telling Commandants of ADFRA what to do and threatening them to kick them out of my crew if they don't shut up. Like I was like roasting people at a young age. But I was the leader. I had the microphone. But the guy in front of me, the astrophysicist, he was telling me what the exercises were. He was telling me what to say. He was telling me how to coach people, how to improve them. So I had to listen to him. He was like the leader. He would bring the crew together, but he made me the leader. So it's kind of a bit of a kind of a meta game. Like you have to remove yourself from the discussion and think at a higher level. Whereas I think so many people just look at exactly what's in front of them and they just process what is exactly in front of them. And a lot of politicians become like, rooks or bishops or knights in a chess game.
Yeah.
You're not a rook or knight. Like a leader needs to step themselves above that and figure out how they all work together, how they can best work together. Because in chess, if you play a lot of chess, you'll understand that the most important piece on a chessboard is the pawns. And the most important thing that you need to do is how the pawns support each other. They're worth the least, but they're worth the most. They're only worth a point each. But how they support each other collectively sets your base and your foundation for everything else. And the king is actually the least movable position. So when we look at our leaders in Australia, the best ones kind of don't move much. But there's a lot going on around them because they have such an effective team. And John Howard was an example of someone who looked amazing, and he held that team together for so long. He's one of our longest serving prime ministers because he managed that team so well. Susan Ley, Andrew Hastie, the result's going to be the same, I feel, because the team is not cohesive. They're not focused on winning, and there's a big upset, and they haven't reconciled what they're trying to fix. So have an agreed vision, what you want to try and achieve, agree who the enemy is. And at the end of the day, every single person has to be in a position where they're willing to concede for the greater good. And they have to debate like cats and dogs, like really, really hard. That's the benefit of the Liberal Party. But the reality is that the leader has a lot less influence than you think. I would not be in a position where I am now if everyone was trying to kill me all the time. The reason why Howard was effective was because he solved his teamwork problem, or the team was united in that way. Like Christopher Pyne was a head kicker, so was Alexander Downer. Christopher would go and rally all the moderates, and Alexander Downer would go and sort out all the conservatives, and Howard would meet with them. And so he had these lieutenants, and so he could manage the party. But if everyone was trying to have a leadership skills, it's not going to work.
Yeah. No, interesting stuff, mate. If people want to follow you, I think you said the Instagram's the best place to go. So it's Henry Davis CR for councillor.
Yep.
Check him out on Instagram. You'll find all his content there. He very graciously promoted this podcast today. Thank you for that. I'm interested in what the chicken stuff is all about, and obviously you were going to be posting a lot more about the new party as well.
Yep.
I completely understand that setting up a party in the background takes a lot of admin work. I don't envy you at all having to do all of that. It's a very time-consuming exercise. So I'm sure that the website is going to be fantastic, and it's going to be up soon, and people can learn more about what you guys are going to be doing with Fair Go. But I suppose head to your Instagram, follow you there, and you'll be announcing it all there.
Soon. It's all coming soon. It's about to kick off. It's about to push off. I just want to make sure that everyone's in the right seats on the bus. There's a great book called Good to Great, and I've got to make sure everyone's in the right seats, that we're doing the right thing, and then we can start, and then we can push. And so that's that building works. It takes a little bit of time, but it's coming.
Yes, it does take time. I wish you the best of luck, mate, and it's going to be good to meet you in Adelaide at our event. And again, if anyone wants to get tickets, head to commandingthenarrative.com or australiansforbettor.com, and you'll find the link to get the tickets, or you can just head to events.humanitix.com/ABG Revival, and you'll get the tickets there. They're only $20, so please come along and join us for a good day, good discussions. I don't think that you'll regret it. So join us there. As I said, October 26th, it's going to be good to meet you there, Henry. It's also going to be good to meet Sarah Game and all the crew. And for everyone else, please check us out on commandingthenarrative.com. You'll find this episode on there, and all past episodes. Please share it out. Spread the word about Henry and what he's doing and what Sarah Game is doing. And I guess we'll see you all next time. See you later.
See ya. Bye. Thank you.